Hi, I've recently been watching some of Bruce Lee's early movies, or his last few movies rather, and I just watched Fist of Fury, his 1972 action drama. It's rather more serious in tone than his previous film, The Big Boss, and it's the story of a young man returning to his uh, dojo for the funeral of his sensei. I perhaps shouldn't be using the Japanese words, but his great teacher. He's apparently died in mysterious circumstances, and the young pupil Chen is heartbroken and appalled by the situation, even trying to dig up his body during the middle of the funeral. During a remembrance service, then, the members of a local Japanese uh, martial arts school enter, and the translator is very dismissive and mocking of the whole situation. The setting, incidentally, being Shanghai in 1908. This leads to a feud between the two schools, which escalates into violence and dramatic bloodshed. As I say, it's much darker and more serious in tone than The Big Boss, a film that was about drug trafficking and labour relations and wasn't a laugh riot, although it did have lighter elements. This is very serious and very grim. And it's, I think, a much better display of Bruce Lee's talent as a martial artist. There are numerous fight scenes. It felt at one point as though there were 5 different fight scenes in a row. Brilliantly choreographed, very eloquently filmed and shot. But the relentless grimness and downbeat tone and hard pace of it felt a little hard to deal with. The film is relatively short, it's only about 90 minutes, but it gets through the whole story quite rapidly as Chen effectively becomes a serial killer, beating various people to death who he considers responsible for his teacher's death, when it's revealed that he was in fact poisoned as part of a wider ethnic dispute. The film does throw up issues about the portrayal of other races. The tone is somewhat anti Japanese um, at a time where relations between the two countries were very much changing. But it's also reflective of the Japanese imperialism of the beginning of the 20th century. So there is a reflexivity there that's sort of rather awkward. But it's an interesting portrayal of the time. I think it's left. It needs to be handled by a more adept director to make it clear that that is a portrayal of attitudes of the time and not a portrayal of the attitudes of the film itself. It has, like The Big Boss, a strangely downbeat and grim ending, but it's very much in tone with the rest of the movie here. Um, Another issue, unfortunately, is the very poor quality of the dubbing. Lee sounds like he's been dubbed by John Wayne, and the love interest has been dubbed with an Australian accent, presumably just using whoever was available in Hong Kong at the time. Although apparently one of the supporting characters was dubbed by Lee himself, which raises the question of presumably he didn't dub his own lead performance because it was felt important to give him a more naturally Anglospheric voice, even though Lee spoke fluent English. But it's a strong film. It's maybe not ideal in some ways, but I'd say I preferred it to The Big Boss and carry on watching some of his other films. But this was a good watermark.